One of the trickiest endgames to play is when a passed pawn is being chased down by the opposing king. How do we know if the king will catch the passed pawn in time before it is able to reach the promotion square? We can count every single move by both sides to try and find the answer, but this takes time and we risk miscounting the moves. Fortunately, there is an easier way to find the answer with only a quick glance at the board with little to no calculation required. This method is known as the square of the pawn. Let's take a look at this position. White has a pawn on a4. Let's draw a diagonal from the a4 pawn and connect it up the board in the same direction as the enemy king, like this. a4 and e8 are two of the corners of the square. The other two corners are a8 and e4. Did you notice that we formed a square? If black's king can enter the square before the pawn moves, the king will catch the pawn before it promotes. In this position, with black to move, can black's king on f3 enter the square of the pawn and catch the passed pawn? Yes, it can, with king e4. Black's king is now in the square of the pawn. Let's watch the black king chase down white's passed pawn. After a5, king d5, a6, king c6, a7, king b7. Black's king catches the passed pawn just in time, securing the draw by entering the square of the pawn. Let's take a look at this position again, but this time with white to move. After a5, can the black king on f3 catch the pawn? No, because the square of the pawn is now on a5, d8, d5, and a8. After king e4, a6, white's pawn will safely promote before black's king can catch it, so white will win the game. Let's take a look at one more position together. There is one case when entering the square of the pawn does not work. It only happens when the pawn is on its original square and is able to move two squares on the first turn. In this example, the white pawn is on a2. So if we draw the square of the pawn, we bring the diagonal all the way up the board toward the enemy king and connect the corners. Notice after king g2, since white's pawn can move two squares on the first turn, a4 shrinks the square to the corners a4, e4, e8, and a8. Since black's king cannot enter this square, black's king will not be in time to catch the pawn. Let's practice using the square of the pawn method to see if the passed pawn or the king chasing it will win the race.